Today I will talk about how to develop apps with Neptune Application Designer and using the SplitApp code snippet from Neptune. The SplitApp code snippet, you can fetch it from the Neptune App Store. If you don't have installed the App Store, you need to go to the download and fetch it. It's a normal transport, not delivered by the core of Neptune installation. Into the App Store, you will find, first search for the SplitApp. Here is the app that you import. Just press the import button and fetch it into your system. That's the requirement for the session I'm going to do right now. So let's start. In Neptune Application Designer, we can create, I'm going to base my training now on Purchase Requisition Approval, an app that you will also find in Explored, so you can see the coding behind it. Start by creating, and the transport request will pop up using my existing one. And for this training I will put it into a local object. No need to use a transportable object for the MIME. Give it a text, description for the app, select the library, of course UI5, SAP-M, mobile or SAP.main. The theme, normal blue crystal, and you're good. The ABAP coding in Neptune is done in an application class. So I'm using the already existing Purchase Requisition Approval class. I can save. And let's have a view of the application class. So I go into the class builder. This is SE24. Go into the object. The requirement from Neptune is having an interface from Neptune, which provides you with 6 different methods: on request, on response, on submit, basically normal HTML5 handling, on Ajax, basically for SAP UI5, and sync inbound and outbound for an SAP and offline database. Let's go into handle on Ajax. The first thing we are going to do is fetching the purchase requisition using the Ajax ID, which is nothing more than a string, get release list. Going into the method, you see normal ABAP coding. I'm actually fetching the data from a normal table with the requisitions inside with the correct status, and then adding a little bit more information on the fields. The internal table, IT release, is now an internal table with the public visibility. Public visibility is a necessity from Neptune Application Designer to use the binding, and also from our server. The data type can be, of course, an internal table from dictionary, or you can go into local type declaration, like I have done in this case. So I can declare a type, and you can declare then the standard table. So it's an internal table. So let's jump out of the application class for now, go back to the designer, and continue with the UI part. As I said, the requirement was the SplitApp code snippet, so we start by right-click, code snippet, Neptune, and the SplitApp. This will now provide you with a complete working app. So it's a little bit of knowing the code snippet that we have to speed it up. It is a master page, a start page, detail page, an item page for more detail. Then some dialogues and some hidden for translation and functions. We can activate and see how it looks. To preview the app, we can use the run built into Neptune Application Designer. You can start a browser, or you can run it in the wrapper. For now, let's run it directly in the SAP GUI. And this is how the code snippet looks like without doing anything with it. First part we will focus on the master page and all the functionality like filtering, binding, refresh, sorting, grouping, and so on. So back to the designer. Let's start with the page master, and in a SplitApp, the first page as master page beneath the SplitApp will be the default start page on a mobile device. So let's find the list that we have and let's bind data. We will now bind the IT release that we had from the application class. You can see all the fields that contains in the internal table. So I double click or press bind. Now bind the list to the internal table from the application class. Now that the binding is done, we need to identify the request into our server. So we had an Ajax ID when we had a view at the application class. We will use the get release list. So the server can identify which request is sent from the device and which data to send back to the device. For the list, you can also see a lot of other functions that are already pre-made from the code snippet. This will speed the development time up. For the row, we have an object list item. Let's start binding. Let's go to the intro and bind the requisition number. We can go to the number, which is the total value. We can go for the number unit, which now is the currency. And let's put the purchase group as the title. As normal, the code snippet will not fetch data automatically. You can, of course, start it by set init load to online. If you have a lot of data, you can go to the init function, where you have the normal UI get core attach init. And it's a placeholder for getting the data the first time. And you can see we're also setting the busy indicator to busy. So if I activate, we can go back and have a view at the app. And now we'll see 3 different requisitions with the data that we have bound. Next step is how to format the data. There is leading zeros, the number is a wrong format, and we'd like to add some more data to the items as well. Let's go back to the master item. Now, for the intro that is a number, we can use the formatters. Intro, and we have a lot of pre-made formatters. Scroll down, you will find the remove leading zero. For the number, I will use a number formatter, and recommendation is use the SAP user default, which will fetch the number format from a user record. And activate, and you will now see the leading zero is removed and the number format is based on your settings in SAP. Let's add 2 more values, the material text and a date. So on an object list item, you can use, if I go to simple control, you will find the object attribute that we can place as a child to the object list item. Master item material. We will bind the text to the text, short text of the material, and we will find object status. That will be to the right, and that is date. So text, and we will find the create date. And for the formatter on that one, I will use the date SAP user default. It will now format the date to your SAP settings. Activate and check again. You will now see the text of the material and the date in the right formatting. Just to explain the code snippet, as you can see, the filtering will work instantly. How is that? Let's go back and check the subheader where we have the filtering field. We have been using a live change event, and we are defaulting it to a filter. If you have a different value in your internal table, then change that to your field. And if I go to the application class, you will see that on the get release list, I'm actually concatenating a lot of fields that I would like to be in the filter. So the filter will contain all the data that is searchable. That could be your own field name if you would like, but the template that we have, the code snippet, is based on the name filter. On the left footer you will see a refresh button. The press event is always set to OApp set busy true, starting the busy indicator, and then get online. This is a Neptune function that will always be created from our server, which means that fetch data from SAP and then the object name. In this case, master list. So, master list with the Ajax ID get release list will be triggered. And when you have the Ajax Success, you technically receive data from SAP. We have a function for that. Or if you have some error, then please turn off the busy indicator again. Unless for the user it will just be a sticky page. Another cool option, if you go back to the run, is the sorting, filtering, and grouping. So group by, filter by, different settings, and the sorting. How to achieve that? Go back to the designer. We have it ready by using the table setting. And now it's about dragging components beneath the table settings. So we have a group. The only thing you need to do is adding a group with a key. The key is the model field name, now in large capital, and a text. So let's copy it and add another one. We can take the purchasing group. Purchase group. That is the grouping. And for the sorting, we can also add the price. We start with the easy one first. Let's go and check our app. Now we'll see the new sorting for the price. You can have it ascending or descending. Let's check. You can resort. And we also added the grouping by purchase group. So you can have both the grouping and the sorting. Let's add the more complex one, which will be the filter. I have a group for the filtering called price, where you can have more than 10,000. Let's check how we achieve that in the designer. So that is the next. That is a table setting filter. So this will be the group. And beneath the group we have one item. And now we can see how the key is, for the syntax of it, it is the field name, 2 underscores, and then an operator, in this case greater. We can take another one. We can have less equal to 10,000 and less than 10,000. Activate. Go back to run. Let's check if the filter is working. Price less than 10,000, and there are no less than 10,000, but it should be only more than 10,000. So that was the master list part. Let's go to the next step when you click on the master list and get detail on the right side. So first of all, the list that we are using have a mode called single select master. which will mark the item you selected. Then go into the item press event. Let's go in and check. We will now get the selected item and the context. And we can now change the properties to fetch the data from SAP. And in our case, I will go back to the application class. What we now would like to have is the get requisition detail, and I have a new method with an Ajax value. Let's go into the method and check. I'm expecting in the Ajax value a parameter for the document number and the item number separated by that field, and we will fetch the detail of the requisition, building up with the items, getting the account assignments with the text, the next getting the text from the requisition, and getting the attachments, and building the release strategy. So it's a lot of information that we would like to pass into the device in one request. So let's start building up the Ajax value and get PR detail. So I will use that. I will do the JavaScript part first of all. In this case, we are not going to navigate before we will fetch the data. So cheat a little bit, have the coding ready. It is getting the context property of the document number, the item number, and I'm using the get online page detail with the document separator and the item. And now let's go and bind the detail page. Okay. So let's go to the page detail, and I would like to bind it to the detail of purchase requisition, which will be work area detail. And then we need the Ajax ID, which is get requisition detail. So that will now trigger when the get online page detail, it will receive the work area and trigger the Ajax ID get purchase requisition detail. We can now start binding the content beneath the page detail and go to page header detail. Let's go for the intro, which is the requisition number. And we can take the remove leading zero at once. Go to the number, and it will be the total value, and number unit, it will be the currency. And we can have the title as the requisition group, and it should be fine. It means that when we trigger page detail fetching the data, we also need to add something on the Ajax Success, because now we would like to navigate. I can show how it is before we do it. So on the run, you can see I can select an item, but we don't navigate away from the message page. So we're missing one stuff for the event handler. Go to Ajax Success. This is when I actually get the data from SAP. And a SplitApp, it is OApp to detail, and then the page detail we can activate, and we can run. So now when I click, you will see it will navigate to the next page, and with the right purchasing requisition and the group value and so on. And it's quite fast to fetching the data from SAP. I can show how we can add some more information. Go to the designer, and beneath the icon tab bar, we have a ready panel. The only reason why I had a panel is to expand and collapse. So we can use the form, just delete that one and right click. Using a wizard, it will read the binding from the parent, which will be on the page detail, and we will display data. And now it will read the structure of the requisition detail. Just add some should be fine. With the wizard you can also change the type of field, so it doesn't necessarily need to be an SAP text, it could be other one as well. So we will use text in this case, so that's fine. Okay, and let's activate, and we can have a preview again. So clicking on the requisition, you will now see more detail on the form. All this also needs to be formatted with remove leading 0 and number format and so on. Let's go back and add a table, because in the same time we will fetch the data for the detail of the requisition. We will also like to have, let's go for the accounting detail. So we can create a new table for the accounting information, tab accounting, go to the model and bind it to the IT account table. And of course in a normal situation you will use the column list item and then the content. But in Neptune you can right click, use a wizard and display. It will read the internal table, and let's place the category, cost center number, percent, text. That should be fine. It will now create all the column with the text automatically from your internal table, how it's defined, and the column list item with now 4 different fields, and the binding is taken care of. Now we would like to fetch the data when we get the requisition detail. So let's go for the page detail object, where we have the Ajax ID get requisition detail. To the right we have a very important button, which is really powerful on Neptune. We can now receive different data. Not only the detail for the page, but I can also receive multiple other models. And this technique will send one request into SAP, and then it will fetch multiple models. And it's more performance-wise recommended, consumes less memory on SAP server and less CPU. And of course all the network latency and so on. So we will receive the accounting table when we get the detail. The coding in my application class is already doing that. Let's activate and run. So clicking on a requisition, now we will see the detail of the requisition and the table. The table data is already taken care of. It will be fetched when you get the detail of the requisition. The next part I will go through is to approve or reject the requisition. So let's go back to the designer, and we need to attach the event for approve. Let's go and check the footer for the detail page. Since the code snippet consists of a lot of other buttons and functionality, just delete what you don't need. So we have a button for approve or reject. What I need is a new Ajax call. In this case I will create a separate Ajax call instead of using like I did with the page detail and the master list. Put it beneath the page hidden, and let's call it approve. And the application ID is approve. Let's go and check that in the application class. So in the application class we can see an Ajax ID call approve. Go into the method approve, and in this case I'm not using the Ajax value. Now I'm passing the entire structure of VI detail, which is bound to the page detail. So every field that contains in that structure will be passed back to SAP and already mapped when you are inside the application class. And the coding, standard use of BAPI. Very cool thing is to use a return. Of course, not always it will go okay in SAP if you have document locked or other requirement. So using the IT return table, well, like I'm doing right now, with a message type, ID, message, and all the additional values, and use the server API for create a message. This is also taking care of our template that you can get the message visible for the end user. So back to the designer. So the Ajax ID was approved, and what we are going to do when we will trigger this call is send the detail back to SAP. So this is sent from the device into SAP, and we would like to update the IT release with new data. And okay. Let's go and attach that event to the approve button. So on the press event, go for the script editor, and first of all what we can do is set a busy indicator. Set busy true. You can see I'm using the O app. The reason is inside the new launchpad on Neptune is better to only set a busy indicator for the app and not the entire UI5 launchpad from Neptune. And get online approve. So that's get online to trigger an online request. Approve is now the name of the component, and it will start sending the data into SAP, processing, and fetch the data, send the data back again. Okay. In the approve, we need an Ajax Success handler. What will happen when you have approved? So I have already a code for that. Now I'll paste the code that I have. We make the busy indicator false, turn it off, updating the header text on especially the master list, where we set a number of items, in this case the number of requisitions. And now we're having a check if you have some messages from SAP with the return structure, then you will open up a dialog with all the message information. If not, you will say that, well, it has been approved. You can do something like remove the selection, go back detail, or other handling. For the session right now, we will take the easy part. Okay. Now activate it again, and we can run the app. Let's go for the first one and press the approve. And you saw the selection was gone and the page is changed. The reason why you still see it is a release strategy with 3 different approvals. So I will do it 3 times and it's gone from the list. So that was a go through of a lot of components using the SplitApp. And in the end, let me show how the final App Store app with the purchase requisition approval looks like. So now I will switch to our launchpad. I have set up using the tile menu now beneath the main category, a submenu called MM. And we have the purchase requisition approval. We start the app and you can see the same data as we have been working with the tutorial. I can select the requisition. I'm getting more data like the release strategy, more formatting on it, better wording, and some bold items as well with approve reject. And now pressing an approve, you can also see that we're having a pop-up SAPM dialog getting information about why you approve or reject, and OK for me, and pressing OK. You can also see that we are fetching the data back again and update the release strategy. So that was it. Thank you very much. And thank you for watching this tutorial. For more information, for videos, documentation, library samples, go to Neptune Explored.